Gold's Gym.
At Gold's Gym.
Men. Grown men.
Men. Grown men.
With big.
How big? Show me with your hands.
In the women's locker room.
In the women's locker room, you say? Which location? Asking for a friend.
And that's why I'm getting kicked out.
Well, that's funny because that's why I'm signing up. I mean, my friend is signing up.
And I want to make sure the girls know.
Well, this girl is definitely thankful that you did.
So, everybody saw that man in the locker room. No one's saying shit. And I'm fucking done with it. It's fucking stupid. It's dangerous.
Well, all joking aside and woman to woman, I kind of blame you for living in California.
Me naked in front of a man without my permission. But I'm the one who gets kicked out the gym, y'all. I'm terminated for not wanting men in the locker room.
All right, we're going to take this one seriously, but I had to have a little fun first. So let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. All right, so the woman that you just saw shouting was a woman by the name of Tish Hyman. This video is going viral right now because she got kicked out of the Gold's Gym in LA. And while I joke halfway when I say that you are kind of to blame for living in LA, there comes a point, and I want people to understand why I say this, and like, I know people are gonna get mad no matter what. There does come a point where you have to accept that certain cities have just been lost. And if you wanna make that your mission, I welcome you to it. But I am going to tell you that some cities are just so far gone that I doubt they'll ever come back, and to their own detriment, because it'll make good people want to leave. And I am 100% on this woman's side. Let's look at the woman in question that she was upset about seeing in the women's locker room. That is her. I mean, are we not trying at all anymore? Has it just turned into athleisure is what makes a woman? Just the other day, we had a trans woman that thought boobs made you a woman, and now it's not even parts that are attached to you. It's just a sports bra. Would that qualify as a sports bra? Leave it down below in the comments. Would you call that a sports bra, or would you call that just a top? I don't know. I'm not the most familiar with women's clothing, although I may or may not wear it every once in a while when I'm lip syncing Bad Girls alone in my room late at night. What if that was the thing all along with me? What if I made all these videos and then secretly I was an autogynephile? That would be the best. Well, that would be the worst, because then I'd be an autogynephile. I guess that wouldn't be the best, not for me, but it would be fun for you guys, like a cliffhanger. Maybe you guys would feel sort of like the Crying Game, you know? It would be like Mrs. Doubtfire, the whole time. The whole time? But all jokes aside, I know I'm being silly, but like I said, this one is kind of heavy for me, and I've been arguing with people on X today about something similar, and I'll explain. Before we go any further, I'm just going to ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. We're on our way to 100,000 subscribers. We're making great progress. When you hit the subscribe button, click the bell, select all notifications so that you know every time I upload. Now, let's get back to it. The reason that the TERFs, which are the trans exclusionary radical feminists, will always lose in a situation like this is because they always want to think about it from their perspective only and take it in an emotional way. And I know that's going to make some people mad, but it's just me being 100% honest, and I'll make my case really quick at the beginning of this video because, spoiler alert, I already recorded the rest of the video. I decided to go back and record this intro because I really do feel like what everybody's asking here is important for women. And I do feel that women's safety is important. But The place that we run into trouble is that I'm a little too analytical when it comes to these types of things. Like Sal Grover, head turf over in Australia, who I think is going to lose her case, and one day I'll discuss it, but I'm pretty sure she's going to lose her case. I don't think she wanted to run that app anyway. I think that she knew that app was going to fail, and she found a way out, and she found a grift, and she's going to work that grift, and she's been working that grift. That's the way I feel about that. But the reason I'm going to bring up her tweet is because it makes my point, and even if it bothers people, I'll explain exactly what's going on. So Sal Grover tweeted this: terminating a woman's gym membership because she objected to a man in the women's change room only proves that gyms are capable of terminating memberships based on behavior. They just deem a woman having boundaries to be worse than a man ignoring them. So that's the way Sal Grover feels about it, okay? That's the way she feels about it. Being very clear about that. So, in California, which is where this happened, and why at the beginning of the video I said I kind of blame her for still living in California, this is the law. Let me read it to you really quick. California state law on gender includes non-discrimination protections for gender identity in areas like employment, housing, healthcare, and has a Gender Recognition Act, SB 179, that allows for a non-binary X-gender marker on state-issued IDs and birth certificates. And then it goes into the other protections. So let me read you this, and this is where it's important. Protected class. Gender identity and gender expression are protected classes under California's Fair Employment and Housing Act, which applies to employment, housing, and public accommodations like businesses and shelters. Now, the most important part to remember about that is where it says, which applies to employment, housing, and public accommodations like businesses and shelters. Now, Gold's Gym is a business. So if a person says that they identify as a woman, then they have access to the women's locker rooms, to the women's bathrooms, to the women's facilities. So Gold's Gym isn't allowed to tell this person, no matter how unfeminine they look, that they're not allowed in the women's changing room. It's not legally allowed for them to do that. So we've discussed this before, where it was the bathhouse in San Francisco that wasn't allowed to not allow trans people to come in, even though they really didn't want to, and they made a big deal of it. The bathhouse did, and rightfully so. They were trying to protect the people that were of the particular gender and didn't want people that are the other sex to invade their space. Again, I fully get this. This is what people don't understand about me, is I get this, but when I tell people that it has to be done with the law in mind, that's something that these people refuse to understand because they're stuck on this is the way it should be instead of this is the way that it is. So this woman, while I do understand what she's upset about and why she's screaming the way she is, in the eyes of California law, now I don't care about anywhere else, in the eyes of California law, which is where this business is running, this would be the equivalent of saying, I don't want a handicapped person in the same changing room as me. And I never like comparing race and gender identity, but in the eyes of the law, very much not my opinion, but in the eyes of the law, it would also be the same as if there were a person of a particular race in the locker room and you're like, I don't want to change in front of that particular race. And then you go into the lobby and you start shouting about how you don't want to undress or you don't want that particular race sharing a locker room with you. Again, this is in the eyes of California law, which is where this is happening. And that's what you have to take into account when you're formulating what your argument is going to be about this, which you're not going to win with Gold's Gym. And that's what I try to tell people online, is that you have to think in terms of legislation. You have to think that way. And California cares so little about what's going on federally that even after President Trump signed his executive order protecting women's sports, they still continue to have a male playing in women's sports. So that's how little California actually cares about what's going on federally. They're doing their own thing in California, and Gavin Newsom fully supports it. So when people like Sal Grover make it seem like it's just a thing of them deciding that a woman's behavior is unacceptable, it doesn't take into account the actual law, which is what you have to deal with in this kind of situation. And we all know that there are differences between males and females, but just boiling it down to that, when clearly that's not what the law says, you really are setting yourself up for failure. But shoot the messenger, because that's what everybody does. Everybody gets mad at me because I say these kinds of things, and they act like I just want them to bow down to trans people. And that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying if you want what you want, there's a way that you're actually going to have to think about this. And it can't just be based on, well, I say that's a man, and we all know that's a man, so it shouldn't be in a female lock. Okay. Then keep doing it that way. But I've always heard that the definition of insanity is to keep doing things the exact same way and expecting a different result. That's why I'm saying that certain places you just need to accept that they've kind of been lost. And if you don't like living like that, then what you should probably do is move until they either change those laws, or maybe you'll just find a place that's more to your liking. Like, I don't live in California anymore. I lived there for 14 years. I lived in LA for 14 years, and I didn't like a lot of things about California, including cost of living, traffic, overall congestion, just as far as people went, and the way they bow down to, in my opinion, unnecessary political correctness and gender ideology. So I just got out of there. And if you want to live in a state of constant turmoil and always being unhappy and feeling like you don't have the privacy that you would like to have, then continue living in California. But if something else is more to your liking, then maybe consider some of the states that are more vigilant about that, like Florida or Texas, or some of the states that are very much considered anti-trans, which to me is just pro-common sense with the laws that they describe as anti-trans or anti-LGBT. But that's probably a better course of action than staying in a state where they can terminate your membership because you understand the difference between male and female. But people like Sal Grover and the TERFs don't get that. They get mad at me and think that I'm against them. I hate women. I'm a pervert. It's like, are you 5? Because that doesn't make sense. I'm talking to you about the way things work legally and trying to help you get what it is you want. I'm really trying to be on your side, but you can't understand that, because the only way to be on your side is to say exactly what you would say, exactly the way you would say it, and make you feel better about things, even if I'd be lying to you. And I just don't have an interest in lying to you, and I don't know what that would help. And so if you're going to try to introduce any kind of legislation to counteract that, or you're really trying to get people to understand, the way to come at it is not, even if you feel it, the way to come at it is not the just, it's a man and it belongs. You don't want to sound that way, even if you mean that, even if you feel that, which is usually the opposite of what I would tell you. I think that people should be authentic to themselves and just say things the way they feel them in a lot of cases. But legally, if you're trying to make something happen and you're truly worried about the safety of women, which is what I think the real concern is, and I know some people are going to get mad at me about saying this like this, but when we're talking about legally, they're not going to be able to base anything just off of discrimination. And that's the way it comes off when you're like, it's just a man and it doesn't. Okay, well, referring to people as it's, and the whole way that people come at this, it'll even turn me off sometimes. And I'm on your side. But as a person that's had friends that truly deal with gender dysphoria, I know not every trans person is an autogynephile. Not every trans person is trying to just be a peeping Tom. Not everybody is in there for nefarious reasons. But I do respect, like this woman said, and I'll play a clip of her saying it, that because of the way things are now, you don't know who's actually trans and who's just in there for nefarious purposes. Like, I look at a person like this, and this person does make it so they open up the door for men that are just men. Like, for all I know, this person actually is a transsexual, but just hasn't figured it out yet as far as their look goes, or hasn't been on the hormones long enough to really present in any convincing way as a woman. That could be the case. I don't think so, because I don't think any transsexual that was dealing with gender dysphoria would feel comfortable going into women's spaces looking like this. I think this person is the problem when it comes down to it as far as trans goes, because these people are more trying to make a point and are trying to force their way into women's spaces. And who knows if it's because of the fact that they're trying to be a perv, or if they just want to make a point. And that's another group that people don't always factor in, is there are some people that are just toxic people and want an excuse to have a confrontation with a woman or with other people. And so you have that too. But the catch-22 for a lot of women also, and this woman Tish probably got kicked out of the gym or had their membership terminated, not only for the scene that it caused, but also because they were recording in the locker room, which is against the rules. And that's why I say it's a catch-22, because a woman does need proof, or a person does need proof that that's actually going on, or something's happening in the locker room that shouldn't be happening. But then at the same time, you're not allowed to record in the locker room. So I understand that too. And I try to be sympathetic to all sides when it comes to these kinds of things, because I don't think there's a way to really achieve the goal, which is to eventually figure this out, which I think that the only logical solution to all of this is third spaces. I really do feel that way. But in a lot of cases, I don't see anybody really being solution oriented on the other side. Like, people will yell at me, but they don't offer anything other than, well, it's just a man. And I know I keep saying that, but it's just all they come up with ever. It's never like, oh, this is what I think should happen. It's just like, it's a man and it should have to figure it out on its own. Okay, well, if it's a man and it has to figure it out on its own, everything that I'm seeing is telling me that their version of figuring it out is to use women's spaces. And if certain states are going with that, then what do you want to do about it other than possibly think about introducing some sort of legislation? Do you think that because you have a bad attitude that you're going to be able to physically move them? Because I can tell you, even a man this size can be very dangerous for a woman, even the size of this woman Tish, that looks significantly bigger than him. And that's not me body shaming or anything like that, but she's solid. You can see she's got a solid frame. She works out. You can tell she doesn't just go to the gym to be pretty or to be cute. She works out. And I think that this guy, if he were truly pissed off and felt like he was backed in a corner, would absolutely wreck her. So when I'm trying to help you out with some options, or say that maybe we should pick our words since we want to introduce legislation, because physically you're not going to be able to make it happen, and laws can't be based on discrimination. That's just not the way it works. You have to work using their wording. And believe me, I got a video coming up probably tomorrow about gay marriage, where I revisit that, where a lot of gay people are going to be mad at the way that I word things. But the way that I word things is because the world we live in isn't always the world we want to live in. And what we know is right isn't always the way that things are going to be treated, or the way that people are going to see them. Like right now, obviously in California, like I said, it's written into their laws that you cannot discriminate against a person and their stated gender. It doesn't matter what their sex is. So where are we? Like, do you want to figure this out or not? Because if all you want to do is shout at me and other people that try to possibly give you logical solutions, I don't really know what anybody's supposed to do for you when all you want to do is hit us with rage. And that's what started to really get to me about all of this, is that I really do feel like a lot of the people that claim to really care about women, and I mean the turf types online that really claim to care about women and care about women's safety, are lying. Because I think that if they were really concerned about women's safety, what they would do is drop some of the anger, drop some of the aggression, and start thinking logically about ways to handle these kinds of situations. And I suggested it before, but possibly dealing with some of the more level-headed and sane transsexual women. I know some of you are going to be like, they're men, why don't you just call them men? Because I do respect transsexual women as a thing. Are they the same as an actual woman? No, they're a transsexual woman. Are they a woman? No, they're not. They're males that identify and present as women. Most of them do say that they're trans women, but the sane and logical ones admit that they're trans women and there's the difference. None of them are getting mad at me about what I'm saying right now. So let's skip that part. But what I'm saying is, I think that some of these women, if they really cared about this, would get together with some of the transsexual women, and the transsexual women, the more sane and logical ones, would actually join forces with you and be like, yeah, you know what? We would like to have third spaces. Then you could possibly have a better shot at a third space option. And I think, honestly, that there are enough sane and level-headed transsexual women that would actually be willing to have your backs, ladies, because a lot of them feel like people like this guy really have messed it up for them too, and so they can understand why there's a need for that. But I can tell you, no matter how much they're on your side, transsexual women are not going to have you disrespect them and still do you a favor. Like, there was a point where Jessica Gill, who's a transsexual woman, been very open about the fact that she supports women, and she has started going to the men's bathroom in order to make it easier for women. So one day she posted a video of her in the men's bathroom, but it was not at all creepy or weird. And the only point she was making was that she was in the men's bathroom and that it's not that hard for trans people to respect women by going in the men's bathroom. I hit the comments to see what's going on. There's a bunch of TERFs in the comments. Yeah, well, now if you would start dressing like a man too, instead of dressing like some sort of freak. And it's like, okay, well, that's not being supportive of a person that's helping you out. Then there were women down below too that were like, you shouldn't be recording in the men's bathroom and you're disgusting. And it's like, is there no way to help some of you out? That's why I say some of these people are just toxic and do not want to help themselves. Like, this woman talks about the fact that she has gone through some trauma and men don't know what that's like to be touched as a little girl. That's the way she says it herself.
If you've never been a little girl who been touched or been through some shit, you won't understand that feeling. And you've never been a little girl.
So a woman like this has a legitimate reason that she's not comfortable being naked in front of a man. And even if she didn't, it's okay to just want single sex spaces. I get that. But people even got mad at her. And that's why I say it's so ridiculous, is because people even get mad at her because she started off her video, because she made a video about it where she's talking. Let me just let her talk, and then you guys can see what she said, and then I'll come back to you and tell you what people got mad at and why I think she's right and where I think she's a little off in the way she said things.
This message is for the genuine trans women out there. I know that not all trans women hate women or are misogynist. You guys are living your life and just trying to do what makes you happy. Here's the problem. We can't tell who's a trans woman and who's a man being weird. So they all need to be out of the restroom so that we could protect our safety. I heard Texas made it a $100,000 fine if a man goes into a woman's restroom. And I think that we should try to do something like that. Get involved with your state legislators, because we need to have a law. At the same time, we need to help the trans women get a space for themselves. And trans women, y'all need to be the leaders of this fight. If y'all truly don't want to be in the room with us and just, it's not about being in the room with us and it's really about having a space, fight for the space. Women had to fight for rights. Gay women had to fight for rights. And you're no different. You have to fight. And I'm willing to join the fight of getting trans women their own spaces. At the same time, I'm definitely fighting for women to have their own spaces. So women, if you're seeing this, listen, don't be afraid. Don't be silent. Scream, cry, yell man in the restroom when you see them in the restroom, because that's the only way to make them uncomfortable with coming in the restroom, since the law won't protect us. This is about women's safety and nothing more or less. Talk to your legislators. If you see a man in the restroom, complain, file complaints, scream, and make them uncomfortable. They should not be comfortable coming in the restroom, bullying us out of our spaces. It's not right. On top of that, the sexual preference of a trans woman isn't always men. Sometimes it's women. And I don't want to be in the room with a trans woman who's attracted to women. I don't want to be in the room with a trans woman. I want trans women to have their own spaces. Natural born women. We have got to stop allowing this. We have got to stand up, and we have got to scream when we see men in the restroom of any form. If they're biological men, we've got to scream, because we can't take the risk of being right or wrong.
Okay, so let me just do this in the order that it popped in my head, or like that it's in my head now. When she said on top of that, and then she went into how some trans women are attracted to women, she didn't need to bring that up. And the reason she didn't need to bring that up, because it doesn't matter, and it could come off as some sort of discrimination. Because whether you like it or not, some of these trans women identify as lesbians. Are they lesbians? No. Would I ever refer to them as lesbians myself? Most definitely not. But do they identify as lesbians? And does that make a certain part of the population that happens to be in power in states like California feel sympathetic towards them? Yes, it most definitely does. So what you're trying to think is in terms of maximizing what your message is and how you're going to be able to actually get to the desired outcome, which the desired outcome is to get third spaces for trans women. Because as far as the men go, trans men, which are females that identify as males, we don't really care on the men's side. I don't know a single man that cares. So for women, if that's what you're trying to achieve is third spaces, then it doesn't matter if they're attracted to men or attracted to women. It's about biology. It's about your physical makeup. And so it's male versus female. So you don't want males in the locker room. You don't care who they're attracted to. That is something that I would say that needs to be kept in mind. Also, when you say trans people, you should be the ones fighting for this. Actually, trans people are fine using the women's bathroom if they want to, as far as they go. So when you try to shift it to them, I wouldn't do that. I would go with the, can you help us out? Which I'm not saying that you should beg. I'm not saying that you should grovel, because that's the other place that TERFs will shoot themselves in the foot, because they'll be like, we shouldn't have to beg these. I agree. You shouldn't have to ask or anything. But if you're going to, if you find yourself in a position where that's what's going on legally, maybe that would be helpful. Like I said, I know that because I'm willing to be reasonable about things, if I feel like there's a goal that's important enough, and not everybody feels that way. Some people feel like, no, I'm just an asshole and I want to stay an asshole in every situation. I want to be as obtuse as I possibly can, and I want people to just bow down to me. And if you live in that world and you can make that happen, then make that happen. But it doesn't seem to be working so far. So I'm proposing maybe go at it a different way and say, trans people, can you do us a solid and advocate for your own third spaces so that we can have our spaces back? Like I said, I think a lot of very reasonable transsexual people would be willing to help you out with that, because most transsexual people don't want to be in your way and don't want to violate your spaces, but I could be wrong. I doubt it, but I could be wrong. Also, the scream and cry. Scream, cry, yell, man in the locker room. You better be goddamn well sure that that's a trans woman, because in this one, that's very obvious that this person identifies as trans. If you would ask me, this person is just a man, a male. Like they don't identify as anything. If you ask me, looking at them, that's what I would say. But let's say that that's what they are. That's what they truly do believe they are in their mind. But you better be sure, if you shout somebody out like that, that they are not a woman. Especially where it gets dicey, and I've talked about this before, is in the gym. Because in the gyms, there are a lot of women that look like men. Gold's Gym is known for people that lift heavy. That's what they're known for. I know everybody goes now, but really that brand is known for actual bodybuilders. That's what Gold's Gym is known for. So when you have people like, she passed away, but Well, both of them have passed away. But Nicole Bass or China from WWE, Cyborg, I forget her. She's an MMA fighter. And there's one bodybuilder not too long ago that has grown out full facial hair and looks like a man, but still is a woman. Fully woman, hasn't had anything done to them, has no intentions of doing anything to themselves, and is a lesbian. These are all women that look like men. You know, there's a bunch of bodybuilders that you don't even know the name of that definitely look like men. Take testosterone. So if you're gonna make that big of a deal about it, you better be damn well sure that it's actually a male. You know the kind of lawsuit that that's gonna lead to for these different businesses if it turns out that they shake them down and give them a hard time and it turns out to be an actual female. So that's why I say that that might not be the best strategy. There was just a story not too long ago that happened at Buffalo Wild Wings where a woman had gotten accosted by a server. And I don't know what the outcome of that case is, or if they're still dealing with it, or if they settled in some way. But I'm sure they ended up getting in trouble because the woman was a lesbian. She wasn't trans at all. And they were demanding proof. The server, of all people, was demanding proof that that was a woman. And the Texas laws, the penalty for the first time is $25,000. That's what it is. So we'll see what happens with that. But $25,000 is what a first-time offense would chalk up to. So there's that as well. And the place that I noticed people in the comments getting mad at her, again, the TERFs, because at the beginning, she said that she understands that there are genuinely trans women. There were TERFs in the comments saying you shouldn't ever call them women and you should remind them they're men and you shouldn't apologize to them. I think that part she did perfectly. I think that's the best way to start it off, is by being respectful, even if you don't believe in it, even if you don't understand it, because like I said, you do need these people's help to a certain degree, which again, the TERFs will get in the way and be like, we should never have to ask for these men to help. Okay. I'm not going to argue. I already got upset, drove my blood pressure through the roof. I said how I felt about that. So everybody can do whatever they want to. I personally don't care. I'm going to use the bathroom I use anyway. I do care to a certain degree, even though I say I don't. I really do care because I do care about women's safety. But I'm just seeing a lot of people, like I said, and I'm not going to get upset again, but I'm seeing a lot of people shoot themselves in the foot because they just want to be extra hard ass or whatever they consider it. And I don't see the benefit to it. But if you see the benefit to it and you think that that's the best way to get what you want in this current climate, you bang your head against that wall all you need to. I am 100% on your side of you shooting yourself in the foot as many times as you need to. But I would tell smart people, I would tell women that actually want the change and not the argument, not the smoke, that maybe trying to come at it from a place of mutual respect, assuming that actual transsexuals respect you and you respecting them as much as you can, even if you don't understand it, even if you choose not to use pronouns at all. Even if you choose not to ever use the term trans woman at all. Even if you just say, I understand you're something different than I am, and I get that. Even if that's the approach. But just the most respectful you can be, find that in yourself, operate from that, and see if that will have them help you out to get what it is that you want to protect women, if that's really what we're doing. And that's where I'm at on it. Sorry to get upset, but at the same time, not sorry to get upset, because I feel like some people need to see that. So if you have any militant TERF friends that refuse to understand how tired a lot of us are getting of them too, please share it with them. Other than that, as always, thank you for watching. If you want to see a video of me talking about the trans woman that thought having boobs made them into a woman, click the video on your screen. Other than that, as always, thank you for watching. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.